time to get your fix. Come on down, get your horrible gaming review. 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 Ow!
Hello and welcome to another horrible game review. Sorry guys, took a couple weeks off there, but I'm back now, and I should be back for the foreseeable future. And we're back on a doozy. Watch Dogs Legion has finally released, and look, before we get into it, a couple of disclaimers, as per se the usual. Number one, the word horrible in the title of this review does not necessarily refer to the game or content I am reviewing, but more so the review itself. I do snap judgment reviews on this channel, meaning I get 5 to 10 hours, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less to review these games, and I'm trying to give you an idea whether you're going to like it right off the bat. Number two, I don't give scored reviews to games. I don't believe in them. I think it's one of the most subjective forms in art, so therefore you will get an overview of what the game is, then I will tell you the pros and the cons in my point of view, as all reviews are, and then I will tell you whether or not I'm going to stick with this game past the purposes of the review itself. All right, all of that out of the way, let's get to it because I have a lot to say about this game. Watch Dogs Legion from Ubisoft, the third installment in the Watch Dogs series, is out, and this one is very different from the other ones. So what is this game? Well, I'm going to spoil the first 15 minutes. Sorry ahead of time, but basically what happens is you play this hacker collective called DedSec. Now, I want to give one final disclaimer. I didn't play Watch Dogs 1 or 2, so I'm not sure how this game stacks up to those two. Those two kind of looked silly to me. The thing that attracted me to this game so much is the play as anyone, which we'll get to in a second. But I just want you to keep that in mind when I'm talking about this game, because some of the stuff I may tote might have been in previous games, and I just don't know. Now, in the first 15 minutes, the London chapter of DedSec is wiped out. Not just wiped out, but framed for these series of bombings around London by a evil hacker group. Now, this allows a evil paramilitary group called Albion to basically take complete control of London. Parliament kind of hands over all power to them, and they basically make London a police state. So, what are you in this game? Well, in this game, the only two survivors so far from DedSec is this one character named Sabine, who cannot be in the country because of facial recognition, CCTV. She'll immediately get flagged and killed. And then Bagley, this really cool AI that works for DedSec, basically. So you get to, right off the bat, after the tutorial's done, you get 30 procedurally generated characters, completely different from any other time you'll play, any other player's thing. They each have their own different skills, they each have their own different quick background, and you get to pick one. Once you pick one, that's your first agent, and from there on out, any NPC, that's right, any NPC is recruitable. Basically, you go up to them, you talk to them, you figure out what they need, and then you try and bring them into your fold. And your whole goal now is to bring down Albion, figure out who framed you for this, also bring down this other crime syndicate, and rebuild DedSec from the ground up the way you want to. Every character has a suite of hacker skills, basically, which allows you to hack electronics, to booby-trap electronics, to do all sorts of things. You also have this tech tree in the background where you'll collect tech points as you work around the open map and complete missions, which allows you to upgrade secondary gadget abilities, which kind of gives you almost like a spy feel. There's a close combat system and a shooting system, which is both are more than passable. I actually found them very enjoyable. We'll get into the pros and cons of that, but very smooth. Then, of course, there's, you can drive around anywhere in open London. It's an open world game. You can do it any way you want to. One thing that I found very interesting about this game is that this is basically, you have your looter shooters out there, You have your looter hack and slashes out there, your looter dungeon quests out there. This is a looter recruiter, and I'm coining that term right off the bat. Basically, what you're trying to do in this is everything rewards you by giving you new members to your team with bigger and badder ass skills, which is a very interesting way to look at it. Case in point, there's a side quest where you can do these bare knuckle fights, which I enjoy because I think the close combat system is top notch in this game. But when you beat them, you have the choice of any of the characters that you fought against in these bare knuckle tournaments to attempt to recruit them. There's also each part of the city is cordoned off into sections like Camden, the City of London, Westminster, all of those things. And then there's also side tasks that you do to try and create the city, to get the city fighting back against Albion. When you accomplish that, when you make a section defiant, you get awarded just a person with really awesome skills and really awesome abilities. It creates this like loop that's very interesting. It's a standard loop when you really look at it. It's just like a game. It's just like a Borderlands where you do something over and over again to get guns, or like a Torchlight where you do something over and over again to get weapons and equipment, or skills or abilities. With this, you do something over and over again to recruit people to your team, and I think that's just such an interesting way of doing things. But does Ubisoft pull it off? Well, let's go to the pros and cons, and let me tell you what I think. All right, I always like to go positive first. So we're going to start with the pros. My first and foremost pro will be the close combat, and was surprisingly cool. Honestly, I'm going to say something kind of a downside and not say it in the con, but I'm always breaking my rules. You guys are used to it. I wish there was more to the combat system. Not that it's bad, just a little bit more to it so that we could get into it a little bit more, because the fighting is a lot of fun. My second pro is the recruitment system, and this is the one I'm going to have the most to say about. So the whole recruit anyone thing in London made me real nervous. Excited, super excited, but real nervous at the same time. Because how do you do that? How do you make like millions of playable characters, like even procedurally generated? How do you do that and pull it off? And somehow they have. Number one, right off the bat, my first 5 hours in this game, 5-6 hours, and even more than that, honestly, have just been spent recruiting people, because I really wanted to test how many times my missions overlapped. Because each time you go to recruit somebody, how it works is this. You have one of two types of recruits. You either have a recruit that likes DedSec. All you have to do for them is talk to them, and then they give you a mission, and then you have to go accomplish that mission. Or people who don't like DedSec. With people who don't like DedSec, I found that really interesting. You can unlock this tech stuff, which basically gives you their schedules, and then you do like this extra little task to kind of ingratiate them to you. Then they give you a mission, which is really cool. So the missions themselves, they're not super long, but usually they're two-step. They give you a mission. You go to investigate that thing, that complaint that they have a problem with. That leads you to another thing, and then once you finish that, your person is recruited. This is really cool. There is some overlap in the thing you're doing, and that's through the entirety of this game. You're usually hacking a thing, stealing a thing, something like that. But the storytelling of like each different character's mission and arc is very different. I recruited at least 20 characters. I only got the same exact mission twice. And even though it was the same exact mission, it was still different characters, different voice dialogues, and different locations. So it made it interesting on a level of how to accomplish it. So I love that. My next worry about the recruitment system was, how do you make these characters unique and interesting? Every one of these characters is voice acted. Not only are they voice acted, some of them respond differently in cutscenes than other ones, which is crazy insane to me. Like, I don't know how they, I mean, I'm sure it's a simple way of how they did it, but I thought it was just one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Case in point, right after you get your first procedurally generated person, you go on this like opening mission, and the opening mission has you talking to Sabine, who is like giving you the elevator pitch of why you should restart DedSec. My first character, which you can actually watch, I did a stream recently. You can actually see this in the stream. My first character was basically this like weird foreign Russian cabbie guy. He was all for it. He was like, sure, let's do it. My second game, which you can't see on a stream because I'm playing it privately, was this DJ girl, and she actually didn't want to do it at first, and Sabine had to talk her into it. So it was a different dialogue tree. Right off the bat, I'm getting a different kind of thing that's happening. That is so cool to me that they've managed to do that. There is a con in here, which I'll talk about in the cons. But some of the other cool uniqueness to this is the characters move differently. You'll find I had one character on the stream. I nicknamed him Krav Maga Lawyer because he was this lawyer, and I just started using him, and for some reason he could just frickin' fight. And it made this really interesting thing happen in my brain because I have this crazy imagination. Is then all of a sudden I'm seeing this guy who, like, on the weekends, he does Krav Maga, and now he's putting it to use. And stuff like that. It's just so interesting in the storytelling. Even the random stuff that don't seem to have a purpose, your brain starts to put it together, and it just makes it such an interesting way to tell a story. And they do it well, which I thought it'd be disjointed. I thought it'd be very like flat on a lot of things. Like it was very similar in here, and everybody kind of says the same thing. That's not the way it works at all. I'm sorry ahead of time. This review is going to go long. But just to put one more tack onto this huge pro, something that I was floored with and I absolutely loved, I only recently found out right before I did this review, is the characters actually, the NPCs, the game actually remembers what NPCs are related to the other NPCs. I found an NPC in the game who was the nephew of one of the characters that I had already had on my team who had died, and he hated DedSec because it had gotten his uncle killed. That blew my mind when I saw that. It blew my mind that this game, that the more you played this, the more connections you would see in it. Like, as you played it. Like, because the one con I was going to say, which has gone away now, is that once you start recruiting people, even though they're all unique, the game is very flat. It just explodes right around 8 or 9 hours. You start getting really big, in-depth side quests, and then you've had enough characters in DedSec to actually start finding these connections. It just makes things so interesting. I found somebody else who was the friend of one of the people who's in DedSec, in my DedSec. It made it easier for me to recruit him. Like, stuff like that is just so cool, and it just makes me so excited to explore this London. My next pro is the freedom of... I don't know how to name this, but it's basically the number of ways you can attack a problem. They give you a thing like you have to do. Okay, like, hey, go rescue this person. Hey, go hack this thing. Hey, go steal this car. And then that's it. Like, there's so many ways to go in and attack a problem and to come at it that I loved that. You could take a hacker, you could go in, you could hack everything, you could hide really well, and you could just steal the thing and get out. Or I could go in hot with my pawnbroker with a shotgun and just blow everybody away and get away that way. There's just so many ways to attack the problem if you're smart about it and think about it. And I loved that. It created these moments too where I really started to think about how the character I was playing would attack this situation. My driver wouldn't handle this the same way as my shooter would handle this. And it's just, you get so much in the moment role playing with this game. I can't even begin. My final pro before I move on to the cons. Again, sorry, this video is definitely going to go late. But is the story of this. Now, look, I did not play Watch Dogs 1. I did not play Watch Dogs 2. I purposely didn't because they looked, no offense to fans of them, silly to me. Watch Dogs 1 looked, I don't know, like a cliche in a game somehow. And then Watch Dogs 2, the minute the main character used a yo-yo, I was out. So, like, those games just didn't do anything for me. They just seemed like run-of-the-mill open world games. And with this one, I wasn't expecting a good story. I was expecting to be wowed by the recruitment stuff. That's why I wanted to play this game. I love games like State of Decay 2, so that was what excited me about this. But this story is actually really good. Like, the characters are really good. The voice acting is phenomenal. Every character has an emotional impact, an emotional response that seems correct. And the guy who does Bagley is both funny and impactful. It's really well done. Really well done. All right. We got to go to the cons. All right. There are a few cons in this game. And I got to be fair. As much as I love this game, and as much as it may be my 2020 game of the year, there are some serious problems with it. Number one, with a bullet, has to be the difficulty of this game. If you're playing this on normal, and you're not playing this on permadeath, this game is not going to be fun. I can't say that enough. It's just not going to be fun. It's not going to give you the fear of your character dying. It's not going to make you want to change characters. You're going to get the best character out there, and then you're just going to want to play that character, period. There's going to be no... unless you're a really good role player, it's just not going to be fun. I played it on permadeath from day one, start one, because that's just sounded interesting to me. But honestly, I've recently turned it up to hard because I did not lose one character on normal, and I played normal for about 6 hours. So I switched it up to hard. I have now lost 3 or 4 characters. You can still do hard, but hard almost feels like what the normal should be. So the difficulty is just not there. They almost give you, as cool as it is that they give you a choice to do a mission anyway, they almost give you so many ways to attack a problem that the bad guys can't really counter it. And it makes it easy to take them out and get away with things. Now, if you remember, I did say there was one con with the recruitment system. And I'm about to say that. The one con, and this wasn't a deal breaker for me at all, but very clearly they have a pool of voice actors who did the voice acting for all of the characters in London. And then those voices get attached procedurally to the character models that you recruit. The problem is, and so far, this is the only real problem I've noticed with the recruiting, which is kind of in itself a pro, but sometimes you get a voice that just doesn't make sense. I got this really big, ugly-looking dude who was very obviously a criminal driver who sounds like Sean Connery doing James Bond. Like, just the most regal, la 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 la. And then I got a stockbroker who's in a perfect suit, who drives a really nice car, and he talks super Cockney, like he just got out of prison. So it's a little bit jarring. Like, just every once in a while, you're like, that voice just shouldn't come out of that person. But again, this is a small problem. All right, my next con are, this game's a little buggy. It is. Look, it's Ubisoft, so we should expect some bugs. I mean, that's doesn't get them off the hook at all, but there's some bugs in here. I've noticed some. Nothing game-breaking so far, but the biggest one I've noticed so far is the portraits of my characters slowly merge into each other. So, like, instead of being my character's face, the correct character's face, it'll be another character's face. Little stuff like that I've noticed. Nothing that has, like, crashed my game or ended my game or anything like that, but there have been plenty of little bugs that are kind of irritating. My last con is also a con with the recruiting system, kind of. I kind of understand why they did it, but I still find it really irritating. Basically, there is no way to make your current characters better. So you can't switch up guns. You can kind of switch up guns. There's your normal your normal DedSec weapons. There's like 4 of them that you can unlock, which you can switch them up. But you can't like if they come with some guns, and if they don't come with those guns, they just don't have those guns. The other thing that I found kind of irritating is so like the first character you start with, they usually have just one perk, and that's it, right? And the characters in this game are all defined by perks. So if you get what's called a skilled operative, which is basically like a rare drop for characters, they usually have like 4 perks and no downsides. So like a fighter, a good enforcer character will have like a counter punch thing, and they might have some like tear gas and something, and maybe like buddies will come to help them, or they're better at fighting when they're drunk. But you can also collect characters like I got this one homeless guy who who takes longer in the hospital and is slower to move, but he's also immune to gas attacks. Like stuff like that. So it's all about the perks, but like your first character you get only has the one perk, and in a way you get that because you're not going to start off with the best thing right off the bat, but it creates this weird kind of feeling in the game where like the characters that you get attached to don't necessarily get better, so there's less and less reason to use them. I find that a little bit irritating. Like, case in point, one of the characters I got really attached to was in the Bare Knuckle Boxing League. I fought this guy. I recruited this guy. His name was Kanach Dowd, and he was this just like crazy-looking old dude with this real deep Irish voice, and I just thought he was so cool. He only had one perk, and that was he did extra damage after a counter in close combat. But then I collected a big fighter who had 4 perks, and it was almost like I can't make Kanach be any better. So even though I like Kanach better than this new character, it doesn't make sense to use him unless I want him to be fodder. And I don't want any of my characters to be fodder. I don't like them to die, period. So like the first character I bought only has loyalty card, which is like a discount in shops. So like using her almost becomes useless. And I feel like that's a little bit counterproductive to the story. Like the first character you get should almost be like your centerpiece character. And that character, by the time you get even through the tutorial, you've basically made that character obsolete because you have to recruit like at least 2 skilled operatives in the first opening missions, which I found that irritating. I wish, and I get why they did it, because they don't want you to just build out your small characters and not hunt for the new characters, but I feel like you should have been able to make your characters a little bit better with some extra perks. Like maybe like your lower rate characters could have 1 extra perk that they could learn, or like a perk slot where they could like switch it in and out, maybe put some builds on them or something. That would have been a really cool addition to this. Instead, you just have this kind of like trading card game feel of, well, this one's better than that one, so I'm never going to use that one again. But that's counterproductive to the whole idea of getting attached to these characters and loving these characters and making the story your own. So that's a big con for me. But other than that, really like this game. So let's move into whether or not I'm going to stick with it. And hell yes, I am so into this game, and I feel like I really needed a game like this in 2020. It's just so much fun. There's so many interesting things happening. Every time I go in, I discover something new. It's really exploding where I am right now. I hope there's a lot more hours to the story, but it's just a lot of fun to just recruit people, and then it's heartbreaking when they die, but like permadeath makes this game so interesting. So yeah, I'm definitely going to stick with it. All right, guys. Sorry this went long, but I had a lot to say about this, and I've had, I think, 2 weeks off from the reviews, so had to come back big. So that's my review of Watch Dogs Legion. Hopefully this helped you guys out. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. Please feel free to blast me in the comments below. You can also reach us on Facebook at OldManGamingDH, on Twitter at OldManGaming9. You can join our Discord. The link will be in the description below. And you can influence this and all of our shows from there. And please turn on the like, turn on the subscribe, and turn on the bell if you want to hear from us all the time. And we will keep making these as long as you guys keep watching and listening. We'll see you guys next time.